Panharmonicon presents a podcast.
Welcome to yet another episode of Panharmonicon Studios presents a podcast. And I am one of your hosts, Damon. And with me is Farron. And always our man on the ones and twos, so to speak. We got Andrew. And today...
He threw up two hands.
Today, we are going to be working on part 2 of our total retrospective on Christopher Nolan's Batman, The Dark Knight trilogy. Yes, I believe is the official name of it. Some people call it the Nolanverse. Some people call it the only DC things that mattered between the years of 2000 and 2015.
I'm sorry. What would be the point of calling it the Nolanverse? Because isn't it the only thing?
The only thing, yeah.
In it?
I mean, there's nothing else to associate it with. So it's not like you would call it the DC universe because...
Well, fair. I guess I just like when I think about somebody trying to attribute like universe to a property, I think of it like going beyond that. You know what I'm saying? Like it not just being like, what is his version of Green Arrow? Like, but sorry.
Who knows? Who knows? That could have been. It's...
Maybe.
If they had decided to keep Nolan's vision going forward, I think we would have seen that, probably. I know, like, I was reading an article. Was it Medium, I think? May have been Medium. Kind of talking about the whole Nolan's effect on DC going forward. And one of the things that it kind of dealt with was the grounding of the DC universe into like a reality, something that you can look at as basically almost kind of like a stark contrast to the Marvel Cinematic Universe that was coming around like in the middle of Nolan's trilogy.
Yeah.
And how you get the 3 Batman movies. And then there's some time because... And then all of a sudden you have Superman. Yeah. And how all of a sudden now Superman's grounded in the reality that it wasn't the last time we had seen the Blue Boy Scout in Superman Returns.
How do you define grounded?
In the article, it was if you look at the Marvel universe, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it technically should be grounded because it's live action. So you're looking at real life places, even though a lot of it is green screen. Not all of it is, especially at the beginning when it was a lot of just like, here's New York City or here's California. You have these like realistic locations, but you have these characters that are brightly colored and constantly quipping and flipping and kicking. And then you have the Nolan movies, all very dark, all very like, and I will add a word here, muddy. I kind of liken them to like the Xbox 360, PS3 era video games where everything had that like black, brown, muddy. For every like few things you had like a bright Ratchet and Clank, you had Last of Us, or you had Call of Duty, or you had even things like Halo that used to be like so brightly colored, mute so many of its colors. And that's all of Snyder's movies after the Nolan series.
Right.
Like, I honestly think that Superman costume was actually brighter than we ever actually saw it be, because it's like he just put like a filter, like a dirt filter on top of like the entire screen. So you're just constantly looking at everything through this like dirty lens, this dark lens, and it just made even a bright blue and red suit look muted in its like color form. And especially as we look at like James Gunn's Superman suit, it's not a pretty suit at all, but it is much more vibrantly colored than Snyder's. And it's almost like we can see that Snyder stayed grounded. It's probably because that is the way that he does movies, but it also could be a directive from Warner Brothers and DC, who saw success in 3 movies that were completely different than the 4 movies before them, that started driving off an edge in terms of their sales numbers. And then like another movie in Superman Returns that also didn't do that well. So then you get these 3 Batman movies that all are doing numbers, including one, I think didn't both the last 2 do over $1 billion, or just the Dark Knight?
I don't recall.
I know the Dark Knight did. So seeing that, of course, I would say if I were anybody working there that had to say, I'd be like, you should probably do some more stuff like this.
Yeah.
But they probably were thinking much the same way they had always been thinking, which is just, we do these separate movies with these separate characters, and then lo and behold, their main competitors, like, we don't do these separate movies with these separate characters. Everything's connected. Yeah. And that probably put them on the back foot and said, oh, we need to probably also do this to make the money that these guys are making. All of this was basically just to kind of say that it's interesting that from that Medium article basically was that realism and grittiness are probably the 2 biggest takeaways that pushed forward.
Yeah.
And we can see that, and it also probably lends itself to say that if they had given Nolan the keys to make him like a Kevin Feige-esque person, that's probably what we would have seen in like a Green Lantern movie or Superman.
Yeah. Well, you kind of already saw that, though. You mean, like, when you say Superman, you mean Man of Steel?
Yeah, but like I'm saying, like if Nolan had done Man of Steel as opposed to Snyder, like I don't think Nolan would have done. It's actually hard to tell if he would have been as cynical as Snyder was in doing Man of Steel.
Yeah, I just meant like from a color.
But from a color, like the same movie.
So
it almost
grounding
looks like
the setting, you know, like that. But
yeah, no. So okay, yeah, it's gonna be one of those parts that we gotta cut just for editing's sake.
Then he leaves it in,
or leave it in, whatever. Okay. Yeah, no, we were we were already kind of talking about the way it looked.
Mm-hmm.
As far as like cinematography and The Dark Knight, I would want to get your thoughts on it specifically because, admittedly, we kind of let you lead the last episode, so I actually did not watch Batman Begins again. Get any notes on it? How I'm kind of I had to kind of go off of memory on how different I thought that the 2 movies looked. In terms of if he got better in making the look of a Batman movie as opposed to like the story of a Batman movie. But I know like city wise, they kind of just they feel like 2 different cities because I think they are.
Yeah. Well, it feels like not only does it feel like 2 different cities from like what it was in Batman Begins, but it also there's no longer, it seems like, this division between like rich and poor. There's not that dichotomy of the haves and have-nots. Like everything it just looks like you are, by and large, it looks like it takes place kind of on the same like 15 square blocks. And where it's just like very tall skyscrapers and buildings. I do think that there is one setting that is replicated is the same, I think to a degree, the same area that they did the car chase scene in Batman Begins. Mm-hmm. So like the canals, it looks like they were kind of driving through, but they don't end up driving, at least from memory, like they don't end up driving through like a very like dilapidated part of town. They just end up back right in what looks like the heart of Gotham City, where all the skyscrapers and buildings are. So
yeah, I would say like maybe outside of the Gotham general, that's probably like the furthest point that they go out.
Yeah.
And maybe I guess like the ferries, but it feels like everything else is really packed into just like the same area. Mm-hmm. And it feels like there's almost no difference between like Bruce Wayne's penthouse, where he leaves to crash into dude trying to kill his snitch, to like where the commissioner's funeral procession is. They kind of almost feel like it's like even to the main chase, they all feel like they happen in like the exact same like.
Do you think
area.
that's intentional? Because as I think about it more, maybe I'm just thinking too much into it, but like, how do I put this? In the first movie, there was like separation.
Mm-hmm.
In the second movie, not so much, and so also coinciding with the first movie is his origin story. Like he is becoming Batman. That's what we're seeing. So this is him taking his first steps into these waters and testing out just how effective he can be. The second movie, he's been Batman for what, at least maybe a year or two. Like he's pretty well known. Like this movie starts off with everyone just kind of being like, "Oh, I don't like tonight." Like almost somewhat in a similar way as like the Batman, but the Batman didn't. It was darker the way they approached it. But all I have to say, like, do you think that could have been a reason why? Like his penthouse, the Batcave, all of that would have overlapped in sort of the same space.
I gotta be completely honest, I'm not sure. I feel like maybe there was a plan on saying there needs to be more like a more homogenous feel, and maybe it's because more of the city parts were filmed in the same space, like the same city, as opposed to being like, oh, we're in London, now we're in Toronto, and now we're in Chicago. Like it feels like maybe everything was kind of just in Chicago, so there was allowed to be similar structures that said this is the same city, and maybe that's kind of what he was finally going for. But also, it kind of feels like, and it's weird to say because there actually are so many varied locations in this movie, that it also feels like they didn't want to make big sets and just kind of used what could be created very quickly and like kind of at a whim, which is why there's so many, like, it essentially feels like a warehouse almost. Like, here's this really big room and just something in the middle of it, and that's the only thing you need to know that exists in this gigantic room. And you see that and you're out. And there's also a lot of like, there are also a ton of like internal shots, like places like inside of places, and maybe that's why whenever you're outside, there are just so few shots. Like there's so many like seemingly similar places because that was all they did. Like we got these, we really are focused on like what's happening inside. Yeah, which is kind of weird because all the big set pieces happen outside, so there should feel like there's this big variance, but I also don't mind there not being a big variance because one of the biggest issues I think we had with the first movie was its disparagement between, is this a big city or is this slums? Is it you just are like a left turn away from any type of high rise to be in slums? Like what were we trying to get at in terms of? And I also feel like there was that like actual like narrative shift away from the like, oh, this everything is so bad here. It went from everything is so bad here because the pores are around to everything is so bad here because people are crazy. You gotta deal with these new crazies that are out there. But you don't have to show the crazies aren't poor, so you don't have to show slums to like show that it's bad. The crazies will show up in high rise if they need to, so you could continue to show that like that billionaire playboy lifestyle of Bruce Wayne's. So I kind of want to get into this movie, like for real.
Okay.
It was a very interesting rewatch because I think the last time I probably rewatched it was like a few years back. I've really gone away from trying to watch movies with like a hypercritical eye, but I chose to watch this one with a hypercritical eye, and I love The Dark Knight. I do still, and consensus probably is that it's the best out of the three movies, but it's still only so much of a movie, and I don't think, in the grand scheme of things, I still wouldn't say that overall. I don't think I would say it's the best Batman movie. I am leaning on the Batman being the best Batman movie, only because it is one of the most, I think it's one of the best depictions of all of Bruce Wayne's issues laid bare, which almost no Batman movie actually does.
Yeah.
And even this one doesn't, which is kind of crazy because I think everybody left back in 2008 saying that it did. But
sorry, that it what?
That it was that, like, oh, it's dealing with Batman's inner turmoil, his inner issues. But I think in reality, what we were all doing was dealing with the moral question, and not even what I think is the actual real moral question of this movie. Mm-hmm. I think we were dealing with the moral question that they themselves kept pushing in the movie, which was the whole die a hero, live long enough to see yourself become the villain, and how that works for each of the like main characters. Like I would say probably the 5 main characters in the movie: Batman, Joker, Harvey, Rachel, and Gordon. But I think because we do that, we really don't get what we get in the Batman, which is this Bruce Wayne who is still young. So he's still dealing with trying to like figure out his vengeance arc, how he's going to hopefully deal with his issues. But also because he hasn't dealt with them yet, they're out there. You see him. Mm-hmm. He never really verbalizes them, but you can see it in the way he acts, the way he acts around people, how he treats Bruce Wayne and Batman, how he like kind of obsesses like temporarily over Catwoman, all these type of deals. And Batman and the Nolan trilogy, you don't really get that. He kind of makes Bruce Wayne this like complete mask that almost never cracks. Just like whenever he has to deal with issues, it's as Batman. Bruce Wayne gets to just be a playboy. He gets to be quiet and not be in like board meetings. He's just constantly always wanting to be away and be Batman. But then like he doesn't really always want to be Batman because Rachel said if the day he doesn't have to be Batman anymore, they're gonna get together.
Yeah.
So he's hoping for that day still, but as she even points out, she never thinks that, like, well, Gotham may not need him one day. He's always going to need Batman.
Yeah.
And that's the closest they ever come to saying, hey, Bruce has mental issues that he has to deal with. But it's like Bruce himself doesn't really ever say, Alfred, like, I'm kind of messed up too. But, I'm still better than them. I can work things out.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a crazy thing to say as a person, that you'll just work things out without ever having to talk to anybody about it. But it'd be better than him just not saying anything and just sitting there being like, yeah, Alfred, she said, she was waiting on me. Which is, I mean, I know he loved Rachel, but knowing that she, like, even if you didn't know that she planned on marrying Harvey.
Yeah.
That's a wild thing. Clearly, she's showing great affection towards this other dude.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't have the heart to tell Harvey that, his girl's just waiting on me one of these days.
Waiting for Bruce Wayne.
That
pack
was,
up the bat suit.
That was like the closest that he like became egotistical enough to be like, Bruce Wayne is the real person instead of Batman being the real person. Still, I do love. I liked watching this movie again, but it has its problems. And one of the things that I gotta say, because while I did just say like maybe 5 minutes ago, maybe longer than that I didn't rewatch Batman Begins because I wanted to come at it from a perspective of, oh, like I remember that, but like that happened and this happened. Mm-hmm. But I did actually watch the first 20 minutes of Batman Begins, and I'm gonna like kind of start this part of the conversation with feeling that it was the exact same way in The Dark Knight. And that's that I don't know what it is about the beginning of a movie for Christopher Nolan, but it's like, he's like, I gotta go someplace real quick, guys.
It's fast.
I need you, like,
yes.
Like, it was like, boom, boom, boom. I was just like, there was, very little time between it. Almost, I actually had to like pause it at one point and check to see if I had like accidentally put in like ×2 settings, because it also even felt like people were talking quicker.
Yeah,
it was like they would not. It was the instant somebody let a line out, whoever had their next line was like, I gotta get it out. And it was like, what is going on here?
As you say that, dude, I think Christopher Nolan is a fan of Gilmore Girls.
How so?
That's a Gilmore Girls effect. Like, I've never really sat and watched a full episode of Gilmore Girls, but I remember seeing scenes of it, and they talk, like the mom and the daughter, they talk so fast. Like, things just, like, they could solve a problem. They could solve nuclear fusion, and I give them 15 minutes, and that's enough time. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just this back and forth. And as you were saying that, I'm thinking about, because I also didn't rewatch all of The Dark Knight, but I did at least rewatch about the first 15 to 20 minutes. And I noticed that, like, dude, it was rapid fire. It was so fast. Oh, who set this up? I don't know. Shoot. Like, they're betraying each other and all that. And I'm like, wow, a lot just happened.
Very fast.
Yeah.
It was like within the first 5 minutes of that movie, there's the bank robbery, the court scene, and then him in his office talking with Gordon.
I'm sorry, the court scene? What
the Harvey court scene. The first scene where
the guy tries to
has a gun that he really should not have. I don't know how he got this gun in there. I guess it's just a continuation of just trying to show like how corrupt the cops are in Gotham. But like, there was no room to breathe. It was just like you were getting so much information so fast, and then it's so weird. It's like it does that for like 15 to 20 minutes, and then it just like somebody hits the brakes.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess maybe like Christopher Nolan finally got whatever he needed to get done. It's like, okay, I'm back, guys. Now we can really take our time in this movie, because
you condensed all that into 6 minutes. Great. That's
like, it was so fast, and it was like, how's somebody supposed to understand what information is being presented here? Because it's almost like you didn't care that information was presented, and I partly think that maybe he didn't, because as you were questioning, like, how long had Batman been Batman? And we know that, well, Nolan outright didn't. It wasn't that Nolan didn't want to outright do a third one. He just didn't think he needed to do a third movie. That he plays around with the concept of Batman retiring, which would be odd if you think of it as a Batman who just started being Batman.
Yeah.
And even if he's only been doing it for like a year, it'd be really weird for him to already be like, well, all right, I'm done doing that.
Yeah.
Especially because he didn't solve any problems. It would be one thing if like he truly had made like a huge difference, and that difference allowed him to be like, I've done enough in this city. But like, he didn't.
Yeah.
And there already like elements like if for him to have made a real difference, he would have had to have done something with like the cops, because it didn't matter who he was putting away, whether it had been him or Harvey or Gordon or anybody, because there were enough corrupt cops that these dudes were just getting right back out and going right back to doing crime. So it feels like the beginning was this way of saying like a lot has happened in a short amount of time. So now we can act like he's been Batman for longer than he actually has been.
Yeah.
Because there's also that whole, like, the beginning fight with the Scarecrow, which is so quick and nothingness that you're almost like, why did you waste this time in this character?
You know, I gotta say though, there is a part of me that likes that they even brought back Scarecrow, even if it was just a few minutes, because to me it kind of reminded me, and maybe this is my issue, but it kind of reminded me of watching like Batman the Animated Series again, because it was the first time it felt like the villain wasn't just introduced in one movie and then killed and then it was done. Because then you think about Spider-Man, like Green Goblin, Dr. Octopus, Venom, Sandman. Maybe if there was a fourth one, it was the only one I think, and even New Goblin. And even the old Batman. Didn't Catwoman die in the Batman Returns? Did she go off? I know Penguin, I thought, died. But all my point is it feels like once that villain's arc is never as important as the heroes.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is, which is fair, man. It's Batman movie as the title, but like I've never seen a villain have a arc over multiple films.
Up until that point, yeah. That makes sense. Like, yeah. It was great to be like, oh, he didn't, he's not dead. He's still around. He's still committing crimes, which makes perfect sense. It's just that it was such a, like, it felt like he almost felt like lackey-ish. Like it was like just a group of nobodies that just got beaten and like, oh, Batman saves the day. And it's like it was like one of the main focus of the last movie. Yeah. It'd be like this would be a far more extreme example of it, but it'd be like Thanos coming back in like the next like Captain Marvel movie, and then he's like he comes out on a planet with like some guns and a bag full of money. And then Captain Marvel just like uppercuts him into space. And you're like, well, that's him. He's gone now.
On to the next one. The flavor of the week.
See how we didn't kill him so he could come back? But it sucks because they also then do that same, like they do the other trope by killing off Two-Face at the end of this movie, which sucked because it would have been great to have this person that's like on the edge come back. Mm-hmm. Because yes, he does some wild stuff, but ultimately you still have to deal with the fact that he is Harvey Dent. And they build up Harvey Dent so much in this movie that to ultimately just kill him off and say, well, how was that? I think hurts the movie at the end. Especially because I don't think it's paid off really well in the third movie.
What, the arc that was Harvey Dent in the second?
Mm-hmm.
That's fair.
Which I think would have been much more so if, one, they'd given us like an Arkham full of these people. But more so to say like, oh, here's this guy that he's a reminder of what the Joker tried to do to this city. And that means that I, as Batman, have to be ever more vigilant. But also, like, the city has to be more vigilant of its people. Because there are now people out there. They try to allude to, like, the concept of Joker being just an agent in chaos. But he was much more than just an agent in chaos here. Like, he really was trying to make this city see that, much like himself, should we be going with like any of the like more empathetic origins of the Joker, that just any one bad day can turn you into the worst person. And that was what he was trying to get across, and he did it. So now you have this person that would be the embodiment of it, but they just killed him and did away with it. And if Nolan didn't think he had to do a third one, I can understand why he did that. And why he also, by killing off Harvey Dent, who would have been the embodiment of the one bad day can just turn a person. And if you didn't think you had to do a third movie, then just having the Batman run off into the night and saying like, this dude has to be the Dark Knight, because there has to be somebody that watches over those who could have that bad day. And he has to sacrifice himself and be the person that can't have that bad day. Yeah, like it would be like, oh, that's the end. That's sailing off into the night. Now, unfortunately for him, he had to make a third movie. And unfortunately for him, I don't think he really brought any of those principles that he had really stricken with us into that next movie, and it just kind of became its own thing. Those are my thoughts on just like his pacing. Which is it was a little erratic, but I think once he finally got himself into like stride, like I think he got it. Your thoughts on kind of just like the Dark Knight,
just in general. So I still have not watched it in full, at least recently, but I've seen it several times. Right? And like I said, I watched the first 15 to 20 minutes again, and I think you bring up some really good points when it comes to the intros, especially having rewatched Batman Begins. Again, to highlight your critique there, I 100% agree. It's very fast paced. It is very back to back. It is. It's all. I don't know why, but it almost kind of feels tongue in cheek. Like he's just trying to be super witty, and it seems like he almost is trying to establish all of the prominent story threads within 5 minutes so that he can have the rest of the movie to play and show you how they unravel themselves. Like it's almost, what is the show called? CSI, where, you know, a lot happens in the first few minutes and hey, this is the story for this episode and what that flavor of the week is going to be. And then let's dive into it and let's expand. And so when you say that, I think that's a very cute observation because it feels that way, and it would also make sense as to why when you said that you watched it further and you continued on, that then it feels like he gets the pacing right because he can slow down and start to really dive into all of the stuff that he tried to set up. But then I think the question becomes, didn't he do the best job of setting that up in the beginning by going that fast pace, and was some of it even necessary? I also, sorry because I didn't want to interrupt you, but I also wanted to highlight the point that you made about the Scarecrow, where he felt like a lackey, because it did become that way, almost as if Batman continued to evolve, but Scarecrow didn't.
Yes.
And so he was so easily just beaten. Now he could be roped around. He could be roped up along with his henchmen, like this is an episode of Scooby-Doo, and then we can go on to the next person. And it makes me wonder, like, if nothing had happened with Heath Ledger, would that have happened in the next movie? Would it have started off with Joker doing some scheme and Batman comes in, takes him down really quick, and now the rest of the movie I need to deal with Bane?
I even wonder if he would have used Bane. Like, I don't, like, I kind of wonder if, if the unfortunate passing of Heath Ledger didn't happen, if he would have just used the Joker all over again, but like maybe added somebody to it, because like it's such an amazing, Heath Ledger does an amazing job. Mm-hmm. Like there's no way around it. You just can't like I would kind of I'd almost like want to do a double take at the person who said he was awful as the Joker, because I probably would just physically do it, like what, because he does an amazing job. He does such a good job that he kind of unfortunately pulls himself into the main focus of the movie in ways that I don't even think he planned on doing so. I'll kind of put this in with like all the cinematography and stuff like that. As I was saying earlier, it's a very dark and muddy movie, but he is so bright. And I don't mean that from like a personality standpoint. I do, but I mean visually, he is. If you like go through that entire movie, everyone is either wearing black and white clothing, like dark blues, grays, browns, and then there's this one solitary person that is wearing a bright purple outfit with like green hair, white face makeup with a like big red smile. And even that when he's like having his like henchmen around, even they aren't brightly colored. Like usually like in like Batman animated series and stuff, they just look like clowns like the Joker does. Right. In this case, they don't. And even in the beginning of the movie, when everyone is wearing clown outfits, they're just wearing clown masks over bank robber gear. So everyone is still in that like just dark, muddy, like, oh, they look like the background. And then there's this person that just can't ever look like the background because he stands out so much that he visually takes your eye, even if he's not in the middle of the screen. Like there are times where like setting is that he'll be like onto the left of someone or like to their right, and you'll just be looking at Joker, even if he's not immediately talking, because he doesn't look like the background. He just stands out, and it helps him. And I have to say that it's done on purpose. In one of the rare cases of like, oh man, he knocked that concept out the park, because like you get the like Heath Ledger just somehow, I don't know, birthing himself into this perfect role, and then also being written well enough to say this dude is unlike anything else that's happening in Gotham in the first movie that you saw. And I think that's maybe also why you do this whole like, let's not pay so much attention to the Scarecrow thing, which I hate, because Scarecrow should be somebody who is holding that town hostage. He shouldn't be selling drugs. This dude should be like, people should be scared for their life, because at any given moment in time, like some fear toxin can like pop out of like a Halloween decoration, or you ate a cinnamon toast like donut. Oops, I got some fear gas in me, like about to start hallucinating. And like he's on that level of craziness that the Joker is. But in this movie, he was just a drug dealer that swept up with the other drug dealers. And then you have this crazy dude ready to take the whole city and blow it up if he has to.
That's interesting.
And it's like, no, these two dudes are in the comic books are very on the same level of like, we will mess up Gotham City if we need to, because we just feel like it today. And that was a kind of a sad thing to see in this movie, but especially because Cillian Murphy is such a also fucking amazing actor, that he would have probably been able to continue dominating in that role. But I also don't know if he was available. Maybe it was like he had not much time, so they could only do so much with him. Yeah. Not sure. But Ledger killed it. And I feel like I pulled away from something that you were saying.
No,
I'm not sure if I did.
Sorry, no, I didn't mean to. Sorry, I don't mean to distract you, detract you in any way. It was, you had mentioned about the colors and the vibrancy, and I guess for me, when it came to watching it, it still felt like he was vibrant in a way, but that Christopher Nolan had added that muddiness that you talked about to it, because the purple was kind of muted, and at least if I'm comparing it to what is the actor's name? Is it Cesar Romano? Who was
Cesar Romero?
Cesar Romero. Okay, so Romano, Ray Romano. Like everybody loves Raven. And so I think about the color palette in Adam West, and of course Adam West's show was not grounded at all. It was just so goofy, but the vibrancy of the color there was different. And I guess even if you were to compare it to Jack Nicholson from the original Batman, but the colors felt more muted. I think for me it felt like he was the only person that had a real personality, because everyone else, when I picture conversations between Bruce and Rachel, or Bruce and Harvey, or Harvey and Rachel, or any number of combinations of the five characters that you talked about, it felt like, again, their conversation, there was a certain pace to their conversation that at certain points was reminiscent of the pace of the opening of the movie, where it can be very fast back and forth. Well, what do you think about this? And they just kind of like they're playing tennis with the conversation, and they're just batting this topic around really quickly. But there's really no distinct personality of Bruce Wayne. Even from in my perspective, his portrayal of a billionaire playboy felt more toned down than it was in Batman Begins. I guess maybe with the exception of I think they will. I own the place, and then he does that. Like, that's a cool little gesture, right? But I feel like that playboy aspect of him is again toned down. Rachel, like, there's nothing very distinct about their characters that stands out to me in the way that Heath Ledger's Joker did. And I think, like you said, I think it was the perfect analogy for it. It was like he like birthed himself into that role. That's why it felt like he was so magnetic every time he was on that screen. You just wanted to see what was next because you believed it. There was nothing about what he did that felt unbelievable. All of his like ticks and little twitches and all of that. You're like, man, this dude's.
He never at any given point in time didn't like. It never felt. It felt like there actually was this crazy person that, like, was in this movie. Not like the movie had a crazy, like, an actual crazy person somehow got into this role and was just terrorizing people.
Yeah.
Like, the scene where he's in the penthouse and he has, like, Rachel, and he was, like, giving her the story about, like, you know how I got these scars. And he's, like, he's got a knife in his hand, and he's just, like, holding her face. And she's constantly kind of, like, just trying to move away from him. And he's, like, really trying to control her. But he's got this knife in his hand. And there's so many times I'm like, he could accidentally, like, just take an eye out.
Yeah.
If one of them twitches the wrong way. And I actually felt that tension throughout the entire period because I was like, man, I hope nothing actually happened. Like, I know, like, clearly, like, Maggie Gyllenhaal is still around.
Do you know what's interesting about that you say that? Because I saw this little fun tidbit a few days ago about that scene, and apparently the person who made that said that Alfred had a line. He was supposed to say something during that scene, but if you notice, he doesn't say anything at all. Like, he's super quiet when Heath Ledger, and it's because apparently Michael Caine was so just taken aback from his performance in that scene that he forgot to say anything, and I think that's just like what they went with because they just loved like the believability of Alfred being stunned by it.
It's an actual, like, it was a tense scene because, like, and I feel like in every other scene with the Joker, you outright knew what the end result was going to be. Like, when he does it to Michael Jai White, you're like, oh, well, he's clearly just gonna kill Michael Jai White at the end of the sentence. It's like the you know how I got these scars, like, part for him is very close to, like, Jules Ezekiel 20, like, scene from Pulp Fiction. You know, after he finishes that line, that means he likely kills somebody. And that's exactly what happens. And you're like, clearly he's setting you up to kill you. So you sit there and that entire time and you're like, he's going to do it to Rachel. But you're not thinking to yourself, like, because he never does, like with Michael Jai White, like, he puts the knife in his mouth, which I still don't understand how, like, he killed him with just... Especially considering that he says that would be one of the ways he potentially got his scars. But my assumption is that, like, because my immediate critique was like, there's no way he just killed him. He just made like a motion. Right. So exactly. I want to give the benefit of the doubt that he pulled it out and then put it at his neck and did it. But they didn't want to show that. That's the only thing I can assume because that one quick motion, there's no way. But I was just so concerned for her eyes. He was just like fumbling around with that like knife because it's pressed in such a like a precarious position. But then like Batman just punches him, and you're like, how did Batman get into the middle of that room with not a single person giving away that he just showed up?
During the interrogation scene?
No, during the scene where he's holding Rachel. Oh, because he's like, you wonder I got these scars, and then like he says one more thing, and then Batman interrupts him and punches him, and you're like, well, that means Batman. It's not like Batman was like in the crowd and then walked up and punched him after he said something. He was just at his side, and you're like, not a single one of the guests standing there give a like some type of gasp to say like, Batman's right there. I can say like his lackeys may have been facing outward, so they didn't see it. Fine, but the entire group of those like elite rich people that are scared for their lives didn't do one single Just be like, oh, the Batman just showed up in the middle of this room.
That's, dude, I love this conversation because you're making me think. You're making me think about things that like I hadn't thought about previously, like that scene with Gamble, and I think it kind of ties back to what we talked about last week with just how violence is, the lack of it. We kind of really, I mean, you see somebody get killed, but again, this sounds so bad because it sounds like, man, this is a violent dude on this podcast, but it takes at some points. It takes away, if you're not going to show it, it takes away from the grittiness of it and the grounding of it. Because I had the same question, and I had the same question every time I see that scene. Like, what did he do? Because and that's kind of one of the things that breaks it. I know hopefully we get into like talking about sound design, but when you're talking about the intensity of these scenes, that soundtrack, there's that noise that really slowly builds up every time that he's about to do something, and that creates so much tension. Like, I think it happened in the opening scene when they were robbing the bank. It happened when he was talking to Gamble. It happens when he's giving his story to Rachel, and it happens a lot, and I love it. But it almost kind of seems like, because of how goofy that ended, when it builds up and then it's just like, and then Gamble just drops. And you're just kind of like, what did he do? It almost, I hate to say it, almost kind of ruins that scene for me. Because the build up, to me, the payoff isn't there. Because it felt so tense, and then you're like, what did he do? And the fact that I had that question, I'm like, oh, well, I don't know about that. But what saves it, I think, is him snapping the pool stick and then basically hinting that he's going to make one of these dudes, whoever wins this, it's going to be with them. And how you've seen the Joker treat henchmen already in that movie, you don't even know if winning that battle is something he wants to do. Because to Joker, his henchmen are expendable. Like, he literally shot some dude in the chest.
Which kind of, like, I gotta say that annoys me.
That they are expendable, or what part of it?
That he was even taking them to begin with.
So,
so many times throughout that movie, there's this whole, whatever you think the Joker is thinking, he's not. Whatever you think the Joker is doing is the opposite.
Yeah.
And that ultimately this dude, he is just chaos personified. He is not your normal criminal. But I think the issue becomes that in this grounded reality, he still is just ultimately a criminal. He's not, like, the very end, he gives this rousing speech on essentially that he is not a criminal. He is the person that is just, he's the agent of chaos. He is above it all. He's just trying to show this city that anything that they like, basically the social contract is nothing. That any given point in time, chaos can happen. Just go crazy. All you need is a push, right? But throughout the entire movie, you're essentially seeing someone just trying to usurp power from the mob and take over. You never once see him, like, yes, he burns his half of the money, but he's also systematically taking out each and every one of the mafioso. It's not like he's planning on, like, being in harmony with them. He's killing them and then trying to take their guys. Like, he would gamble. He's going to kill, like, have two of them die and take one of them. I'm sure Gamble had more than just 3 dudes. So he probably took the rest of them.
Yeah.
When he kills Mr. My Dogs Are Hungry, he literally tells the next dude, like, tell all those guys they now work for me. It's not until really we get to him being, like, arrested that you, like, which does happen afterward, or happens before the scene with the money, in which you're kind of told there are just crazy people who he's essentially kind of preached to, and they follow him because of that. But it feels like there are very few of them as opposed to all the people that are working for him, which are mostly dudes that were former like mafia dudes.
Do you think that any part of that could be a result of him wanting to sort of spread and propagate to the point where he can more quickly spread his own version of chaos?
And
like,
it's
so just grabbing more people to be able to
and it's about stability. But I guess I figure like, and I don't know how much we want to kind of get into like our own stuff, but to me, if I were looking at this Heath Ledger Joker character, I would think of him as not. I think in a way he kind of feels like maybe he's a lone wolf that just has people that are expendable behind him. But I would have treated him as an agent of chaos, yes, but also potentially as someone who personifies chaos in such a way that these mentally ill people will look to him kind of like as a messiah type character, someone that they should be following, even if it means following to like one's death. And if that is something that he was thinking, like that's what's happening in a movie, I wish he got that point across more. To me, rather than just saying like, "Kapow, you work for me now," it should have been more like "This is why you should be working for me," as opposed to working for them. Like he should have been more of a cult of personality. Oddly enough, the way that we treat this Heath Ledger Joker character outside of the movies, the way the internet treats him as this cult of personality, this person to be looked at and admired, and I want to strive to be like the Joker because the world is just so awful. Yeah, like that's how I feel like these people should have been inside the movie, as opposed to him essentially just taking former Falcone and Maroni guys and being like, "You work for me now," knowing that they were probably just gonna get beat up by Batman or like killed by cops. That was my only real kind of gripe with like how Joker was doing things. How do we get to
that? Well, I know you made the comment about it feeling like at the end of the day, like outside, despite his personality, and despite all of the grandiose acts, like he was essentially just a criminal at the end of the day.
It was just that's just the way I felt. It may have, and people probably look at it a different way. It felt like at the end of the day, he wasn't as far removed from the like mafioso element as I think the movie wanted you to think he was.
Okay. If you could make a critique there or offer up a suggestion, how do you think that within the time that they had, they could go about doing a better job of separating him from that?
I think when he first, one of the things that the first time I watched this movie, I didn't really understand, and I didn't think I missed anything, but now I realized that I actually had, was that the mob went to Joker because of the beginning scene in which he came to them saying that we need to kill the Batman. And I always thought that essentially he just said we need to kill the Batman. Oh, you're not with me. I'm still going to do it anyway. And that was why he was eliminating who he was eliminating. But I didn't realize that they had actually still come to him. He was just still like, he just F'd them over anyway. Mm-hmm. I guess for me, I know he's not supposed to be a preachy character, but he talks so much throughout the movie. It's kind of crazy that he essentially doesn't give why he does the things he does away until the very end of the the
But do you think you can trust that? That's his real reason that he gives at the end of the movie? Because it seems like he's just so all about misleading.
He's always about misleading. I mean, he gives you two different stories as to how he got his scars. Yeah. Meaning that probably neither of them are real. Yeah. But the whole we don't have anything on this guy. This dude is just a person that just somehow randomly appeared one day. We got nothing on him. No fingerprints, no formers. Despite the fact that clearly we're looking at his face, no clue, no facial recognition gets this dude, meaning that somehow in between augmenting his face and any time prior to that, he's not been seen on a camera. There's a lot that just says he's an enigma. He's just a person that appeared. Mm-hmm. And to that, just, even if it had to be expository at that scene with the all the mobs, because they do talk about knowing that he existed before he showed up. And that's why none of them, like all of them, treat him as if they know he existed. So maybe give it a bit more rarefied air to say like, oh man, that's that dude that this dude's crazy. Everybody says he just does things just to do things. I heard kind of like how in or even with like a scene. So like I was telling you before about like Absolute Batman. Like it starts out with like telling you about this gang that is not like the other people, not like the Maronis, not like the Falcones. These dudes are doing things just to do things. They blew up they set a fire to a school and just watched it burn and 32 people died inside of it. Like do something like that. Like where at the beginning of the movie, like I would have probably replaced that goofy clown bank robbery scene with maybe him blowing up a building and then like a news thing saying this is like the 4th building that's blown up like this year. The only thing that's ever left at the scene is like a Joker card. Mm-hmm. Something that says this dude is willing to just do whatever the heck he feels like. And then when you do see him finally, when he just shows up at the table meeting, everybody's like, oh yeah, this that guy that's been blowing up he's been blowing up churches, he's been blowing up school buildings. This dude just does whatever he wants to, but he doesn't seem to ever want anything from anybody. By saying he's an agent of chaos, why does he rob a bank at the beginning and take the money? Like, why not just he blew the bank up? And speaking of this bank scheme, I'm sorry, there's just some things. So the grenades. Why would you think that would work? So like he basically gives each of the people a grenade that they gotta hold, and then takes the pin out. You now don't really have any type of like what if one of them were suicidal? What if one of them accidentally just got so nervous that they let it go? Now we know like because of what he does to who I dubbed Shotgun Harry, the dude who just like starts
I think if you look at the credits, that's his actual. That's the name that he's built for. Shotgun Harry.
So as we see, like he puts a grenade in his mouth that just turns out to be a smoke grenade.
Yeah.
So maybe all the other ones are also smoke grenades. But you also like if I'm not the dude putting grenades in people's hands and pulling it out, you can't trust that that's what happens. Especially since none of them seem to have like an idea of the plan other than Joker himself. Yeah. So why would you think that plan would work? Why then? If I were somebody that had to hold it, why would my instinct not just be to immediately throw it, get it away from me, however I can possibly do? Because I'm not gonna even trust the grenade that I'm just holding down the trigger on. And then, like I said, Shotgun Harry does a horrible job. He does. I believe he shoots one of them kind of immediately, but I think that was the Joker who like he got back up and like kind of dodged and ran away. And then another dude pops up who he does it. I thought he shot him right in the face with a shotgun. Yeah.
He's like, yeah, where'd you learn how to count? That dude? Yeah. Where'd you learn how to count?
Yeah. He just pops back up and he's just like, my shoulder. But like, I'm like, didn't he just blast you like full frontal with a shotgun?
And all, dude, and looking at that scene, was there blood?
No.
So he just got
up and he's like, chest. Must have been a BB gun or something. Yeah. I was like, it's kind of weird.
I guess Shotgun Harry's shotgun's not that great.
Also, there's this like weird thing about someone who I think is Shotgun here dialed out, but he didn't dial out to the cops.
Right.
And that point is never brought up. And it's weird because it seemed like it was an important thing to note. Yeah. But it does not come back up in this movie.
I thought, you know what? I'm glad you brought that up. I just kind of assumed that it was whatever gang faction resided over that bank. That at first, originally, I thought it was Batman.
I thought it was Batman too. Again, like even rewatching the movie, I was like, "Oh yeah," but I was like, "But Batman doesn't show up in this, you know?"
Right.
And like
later that night, right? That's when they. I think after he takes down the Scarecrow again and the henchman when he's talking to Gordon about the bank heist. I thought he's back at the bank, but it's like later. It's like much later in the day.
I think that's after like the bank heist happens.
Yeah.
And then he takes out the drug deal. And then him and Gordon are at the bat signal.
No, they're at the bank. They're at the bank, and like Gordon is in the bank vault, and he's talking about he left like.
Oh yes, he
like
did.
A bill.
He left the bills
yeah.
Because they were tracking the bills.
Yeah.
So yes, he does show up later that night, but he doesn't like if they were calling for Batman, he would have shown up like right then and there.
Give me 6 hours, I'll be there later.
So I guess he like, but then you would think they would have said something in like the table scene, but they do know that someone's tracking them because Lau says that their money's being tracked. So maybe it was Lau he called. I don't know. They could have made that a bit more clear. Also, for some reason, the whole Hong Kong part makes me think of and I keep tying them together and I don't know why. Mission Impossible 3 in the Shanghai scene, where Ethan has to do like Ethan has to get inside this building to get like some information from I want to say like somebody died and Philip Seymour Hoffman needed the information, so he has to get it from this like building in Shanghai, and like it's like the Mission Impossible Tom Cruise stunt of the movie, in which he like runs off of one building while being tethered to that building, and he jumps off and he pendulum swings over to the other building, cuts his tether, and then lands on the building, which has like this like.
Oh, was he got the sticky gloves?
No, this one he lands on his back onto the roof, which is angled, and he's like sliding backwards down the roof, and shooting at like guards that are like stationed on this roof to just let him like land without ever shooting at him whatsoever. Yeah. And then he like goes inside and then he like jumps out and he base jumps. And I guess it's because of the base jump that I like treated with the Halo extradition.
Yeah.
And like for some reason I feel like those two movies were like taking notes off of each other even though they're like 2 years apart. And then I think like in one of the later Mission Impossibles he does that Halo extradition.
Which one was that? I know he does that one where he drives the bike off the.
I can't remember which one.
But I was supposed to say the bike off the bike. Naturally, one does.
But Lucius Fox has two phones. When he gives one phone to the desk because they say you can't go in there.
Yeah.
And then like he pulls out another phone to show that he had two phones. I guess really to the audience more than anything. It just rings for no reason whatsoever. And he's like, "Oh, I should pull this phone out," even though I was told I shouldn't have phones here.
Yeah.
Like, and Lau gets all pissy about it, but doesn't do anything. The first phone that he gives away, and I had to start like kind of looking up because it looks like he gives a smartphone away, which is weird because I'm assuming this movie was made, even though it came out in 2008. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure the iPhone came out in 2008.
Yeah, I think so. I hate to keep on this, but it's just one of those things I just kind of wrote. I kind of create my own lore sometimes when I see these things, and because they don't explicitly state the why or the what behind it, I'm just like, well, this. And so I just kind of figured that, I don't know, like it was a very sophisticated BlackBerry or something like, because it's Batman,
and it very well could be. It was just like, it was so weird to me. It was like it stood out for a second. I was like,
how did they know?
They have a smartphone? I think they have an iPhone. I don't think they could have had it yet, but there probably were like sized BlackBerries. I say that like I wasn't around and like a full adult during this period of time. But I'm pretty sure back in like 2007, 2008, I had like a freaking like flip phone. So they end up getting him and then doing the extradition, and it's so illegal that I can't believe it's allowed. Honest to goodness, that the next scene is not an FBI agent coming down there, snatching Lau up and sending him back home is amazing to me.
Yeah.
That they think that they can just take this dude who shouldn't be in an area that he was not allowed to be extradited from, and the country did not allow extradition.
Yes.
And be like, we can just now, put you in the court system.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's not. That's not the way anything works.
But this movie magic, right? That's a lot of things.
That's some crazy movie magic.
And it's, as we're on that topic, it's one of those things where I've heard people talk about this before. That's one of the things about Batman, right? As a vigilante, everything that he's doing is technically illegal. And so when it comes, like, it would just be a revolving door of having a court case and like none of the evidence being admissible because Batman, like.
And the craziest thing is, I would have taken that, right? But then the thing is, they then be like, we now have these 82 people. We're all somehow processing at the same time,
right,
in this court, and you're like, none of what he said was admissible. You just took this man, and honestly, that scene and the eventual sonar scene show that that's what we should have been talking about in that entire movie, is Batman's willingness to be very illegal to solve crime.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's okay. It's like, I think to myself, all the conversations I remember having and also hearing right after that movie came out. We were only 7 years removed from the events of 9/11 and still within war in the Middle East. We only, it was 2008, so we just had gotten a new president. And
you mean when this movie came out?
Yeah.
You mean like I guess we would have been approaching the election, right? Like I think it came out in summer of 2008.
So I mean, we knew we were going to have to get a new president because
I guess that was the second term, right.
Term. So we were still under an administration of Bush and Cheney, and this whole deal with the whole NSA surveillance is should we be in a surveyed state for safety, or should we be allowed freedoms at the cost of safety? Mm-hmm. And that's a conversation that's had in this movie. Unfortunately, even it isn't held very far because of the fact that it garnered a solution. And it sucks that it, one, garnered a solution, and two, the other solution was just, well, we'll just destroy it. And that's such a cop-out because it gives you the illusion that means Batman would never do it again. But you don't know that.
Right.
And considering earlier in the movie, the man illegally extradited somebody just because he was upset that what they were doing the first time illegally didn't work, tells you that he probably will do this again.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. And we see this in the comic book. The man has no problem with not just towing the line, but jumping over it and doing a backflip if it means getting his way.
Yeah.
And that conversation, it should have been had more fully, but also I think outside the movie, instead of a bunch of memes of why so serious and how did I get these scars and a worship of Joker, it should have been a bit more of a question on, should we be cool with this?
Yeah. And think about like the ultimate, like the moral of the story. It's okay if it produces results.
Yes.
So you can always circle back and to your point, like you asked the question of would he do this again? And I mean, if he's already done something illegal in the beginning to extradite this character, if he did that in the first place, I mean, the only thing I feel like that stopped him from doing something similar with Bane is because Bane had shut down the city and he lost in his first battle to Bane.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like very badly. So yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely an interesting question and funny that would be situated that way, because I feel like that's what they wanted you to come away with. It's like, oh, hey, the government did it. They produced this. Like, we got this out of it. Right? And like, is that, because that's kind of feels like
it's like
you're supposed to, because it's never really addressed in this third movie.
No. And that's my thing. Like, it's another thing in which you're like, Bruce should be looked at a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Post this. And yes, it's only kept between him and Lucius Fox. And Lucius Fox destroys it. But that doesn't mean that it's not something that he wouldn't dream of doing again. After all, like if we were to say, like, what if it turned out that the government for the past 25 years has been using everybody's cell phone as a pinging location device to create visual sonar that has helped them, like, stop terrorist threats before they happen. But it also means that they have basically been able to keep an eye and ear on every single person who has a cell phone for the past 25 years, meaning that they have so much information on everyone. Yes, they stopped terrorist crime before it could have possibly happened, but they also peeked into our lives that should be kept private. Like, that's like, who gives and who takes in that situation, and should that be allowed? And that's like, yes, Lucius Fox says this is wrong. And also, Bruce just doesn't care. He's like Lucius Fox is like, this is wrong. And Bruce is like, it'll help us find people. It'll help us find this man. Just put your name in after we find him. And it's like, there's never an internal quandary within Bruce Wayne to say, man, should I do this? And it's like, perhaps if they had given away that was something he was going to do toward the end of the movie earlier, so that he could have actually had that conversation with himself, I think it would have come across better than trying to give us a big surprise to be like, see what he's been doing. Here's this thing in the middle of a giant warehouse.
He had the opportunity to do that, technically, right? I mean, he basically just gave steroids to the very device that he used in Beijing.
Yes.
Is that? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you could have kind of had that conversation there.
They just didn't
about that. Yeah.
Also, I don't, from a design standpoint, why did it have so many keyboards if only one person was going to be using this thing ever?
Oh, well, that makes it look more futuristic.
It looked goofy. It was like, it had one chair, but there were like 12 keyboards just like embedded into the table around this thing. I was like, who over designed this thing and why did they do that? When nobody's like, I'm probably the only person that actually looked at the table like, that's kind of weird. Why is there so many keyboards? Like, I'm sure the whole thing was supposed to be, look at all these monitors that he's got doing all this. And that also shows you the limitations of like 2008, that it had to be so many tiny monitors instead of just big
monitor with several different.
But it's like that thing. Like I guess it was maybe like the movie equivalent of Brother Eye. It's just kind of crazy that there just wasn't more of a conversation around this like extremely pervasive piece of technology that just was kind of crazy to use, knowing essentially that like you probably could have found Joker just as easily in like a different way. I mean, you're Batman. You could have just like we can trace radio signals and find out that he's in this building. Yeah, nitpicks aside, no, not nitpicks aside. I want to go back to Gamble because I have an issue that I talked about in the first episode, which is the use of Michael Jai White.
Yeah,
I don't care if you surprise this man by pretending to be dead and then jumping up behind him. Heath Ledger is not holding back Michael Jai White, knife or not. Michael Jai White grabbed that man by the neck and broken him down. That's just the way it is. And they had Eric Roberts in this movie, and I believe he's also in the first movie. Salvatore Marone. He's also a known martial artist.
Is he really?
Yeah, he was in like The Best of the Best. Like he was in a number of those like 90s karate movies. I'm just saying. To your thing about the action scenes, I found it interesting because in the first one you kind of noted how everything was just kind of very like up too close to your face, very like fast paced, cut, bing bang boom. You can't see what's happening because capes are twirling and like shots are being shot not where they should be instead of like on the action. Mm-hmm. In this movie, I feel like there's a different take on it. And unfortunately, it was to turn it into slow plotting action in which you showed off that this man can't fight. Or you showed off that your choreography is like not that good. Because
it's non-existent. Honestly, it's like if we got hired. It's like after any of the home movies that we made when we were 14 and they said, you know what, Farron Dane, can we talk to you for a second? This is Christopher Nolan. Can you choreograph a fight scene for his movie? Because I think even in the scene where he goes and confronts Scarecrow and those like drug henchmen, it's super slow.
I was like, it was almost like they heard you. It was like, oh, we got you on this next one. Like,
you want to see it?
You want to see the action? Oh, okay.
Hey, what do you think?
This is what we were doing the first time. You just really couldn't see it.
Go back.
Go back. Like, you can't do it better? This is what we did. All right, well, can you go back to the first time? Yeah. I prefer not seeing this because what you were doing sucked. And there was no leg action. Everything was from like the waist up.
Yes, it's like the opposite of Spider-Man the animated series in the 90s, where he can't land a punch, but he can land nothing but kicks when it comes to his enemies, and then Batman's the opposite.
Batman, we can't show you kicking anybody. Right? We can show you. We can show you throwing some elbows. Yeah. Maybe do a couple of blocks. Really show off that suit is not flexible at all.
Handy dandy devices that I have no idea what their true intention was.
He stopped just like these using
little joysticks came out.
Okay, in that first fight scene, he shows off a gadget that would have been very useful going on that he does not do again. Yeah. In which he grabs the front of a gun, and like you can hear that there are like motors whizzing, which means that he's like enhancing his strength.
Yeah,
because he grabs the front of the gun and then just bends the barrel like a cartoon character. And then, like, does another and then punches the dude. And he's just clean out.
Yeah.
And then he never uses this gadget ever again. It's like, I'd use the strength enhancing gadget that I can.
Every time. It's like, man, I don't care who I was fighting. Dude.
And then also, somehow got bit by a dog. And somehow the dog knew to bite in the very place that was the weakest
Yeah,
in all of his
smell
armor
how
plating.
weak the material was.
It's like,
That old scuba diving suit.
So that suit right there at the elbow, that's where I can bite. Just latch on real quick. And he also did not care about he must have hated dogs in this movie. Because
did he give a rock and sock and bopper?
That dog, so the dog was on him, and he's like, rah, rah, rah. And then he just kind of like, poof, and the dog goes, right? And you don't see the dog again. But later in the movie, when he finally confronts the Joker for their grand, horrible fight, the Joker sicks 3 dogs on him. Dog 1 is the closest to the inside of the building. And if you recall, the inside of this building that's not fully made, is just a giant hole down the center of it. Because that would be where all the stairs go around. Batman proceeds to backhand this dog that just goes off into that hole.
Oh my God.
He does not make a noise, but you see the body go over the edge.
No, you don't.
It just is gone. And then
Batman threw a dog
other 2 dogs come at him. And I'm like, oh, he's about to do that to these 2 dogs as well. But they kind of like, they double team tackle him. And then that's when the Joker kind of gets in and starts like stomping on him.
Yeah.
That first dog, I was like, he just killed this dog. And he just gave no care about it.
Dude, what if you just heard like towards the end of that fight, Batman was going to get the upper hand, and then you hear the elevator ding, and the dog just runs off the elevator.
Come back! You thought he got me, boss.
I'm back on the 150th floor.
And I was like, he just killed that dog. He just he had more he also does this thing with the cops. Where actually, I should say, I don't understand why. When he figures out that the dudes in the clown masks are the hostages, and all the hostages are actually the dudes with guns, why he doesn't have Fox relay that to the cops, considering just like earlier in the movie he has Alfred let Gordon know that 2 of the cops can't be trusted.
Yeah,
because they have family in the hospital. So basically, he has to fight the cops for no reason because he should have just let on immediately that he knew that things were flipped in there. But instead, he fights them, and then there's just the scene where he pushes the dude over the edge, and then he's been wrapping some rope that came out of nowhere around each of their ankles. And somehow makes it so that they perfectly line up and none of them bang against the side of the building, but each one is consecutively in a floor that stops them from just booming right into the side of the thing. And
pendulum paddles.
So, you can do that, but you just killed this dog because the dog earlier got that better hand on you.
Rope. He let our fruit by the foot.
But he could also throw the Joker over the edge and then use his grapple gun. And
which, dude, anytime I see, I guess you could say anything that it's the device is made so that
it didn't yank
Joker's out of his socket. Come on, or his leg
clean out of socket.
And
maybe it did. Joker seemed to be very well versed in just taking pain.
For sure. I feel like that's always been the character. He no matter what happens, he comes back, and that's why it would have been nice to. I think just also why I like the fact that Scarecrow again popped up when he did is just to show that hey, they're still around. It
would have been nice to still have him around.
Yeah.
There's also apparently the Joker can fight because he gets whooped up by Batman, but he goads Harvey Bullock into fighting him, only to just immediately just
Harvey Bullock.
Mm-hmm. The dude who's always right behind Gordon, and then when Gordon leaves the police station and everybody has to go.
I didn't realize that was Bullock.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow! Okay.
And he's I know you're gonna enjoy this, so I'm just gonna have to try to enjoy it just a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then
the next
immediately
he's looking at half Nelson being dragged
with some glass to his neck, and he's like,
I want my call.
And honest to goodness, like crazy or not, and yes, probably half of the team, like the force is corrupt, but he showed just how inept Gotham police are. Like every time they even attempted to think they could do something, he was already like so many steps ahead, and they would just like, it's like after a certain point, you have to stop and say, don't do the thing that he probably wants you to do.
Yeah.
Like, oh, guys, we need to get Harvey to this place. How about we not like take the detour that just suddenly popped up? Like, there is a guy that's been really like flipping us on our head.
Yeah,
this is probably a part of something he's doing.
Let's just stop the transport altogether. Maybe he's not thinking about
like,
that.
Let's stop that.
Yeah.
Oh, he out loud said, "Watch the tunnels and the bridges." Surely that means we should still use the tunnels and bridges instead of putting everybody on ferries. Yeah. What he clearly just goaded us into doing by claiming that the tunnels and the bridges are rigged for explosion. And it's like they just kept falling for it every single time. It was like, if at the end of the day you stopped him or not, I'd be like, you all need to have a serious audit that is not done by anybody in Gotham Police.
Somebody needs to get fired.
Mayor Down needs to be fired from Gotham.
Oh, man. Insane. Who are you hiring here? It's like fresh out of college.
It's like everybody sucked. And if they didn't suck, they were corrupt. It was like, you just can't win in this city.
Yeah.
I'd be like, next, I'm moving to Metropolis because this city sucks.
Yeah.
And it's also so many rich people here. It's not like rent's cheap. Rent can't be cheap. There's too many rich people.
Yeah.
just like living in this city.
Yeah, man. And it goes back to like, it makes me wish with how many cops were outed as being corrupt that like that's the kind of layer I feel like was missing from Batman Begins, and that showed just how intrusive that corruption was. It's like so many people in the force were. But I guess, maybe if that's something that you were saving for this outing, fine, whatever. But just a thought.
It's pretty crazy. And also, something I learned, apparently, Ramirez? The corrupt, apparently she's supposed to be Renee Montoya?
Really?
But they chose not to do that.
And so they just... interesting. So it's like they just kind of took the first two letters of the name.
Let's do what we wanted to do. Which, after I read that, I was also wondering, like, because the character, like, I was wondering why Rachel existed. And I guess, like, I get, you don't want to use Selena Kyle because that's not where her place should be.
Mm-hmm.
But it made me wonder why they didn't use Vicky Vale.
And
it's like, the character's right there. Why would you create a whole new character that's kind of like her, but not use Vicky Vale? It's not like there's a rights issue. Oh. There's nothing on it. There was no, like, he wanted to use her or, like, he had plans. He created a person.
Okay. I love when movies do that. And it's not to say that you have to use all, like, everyone has to be. I guess it's your sandbox playing it, but not to go it's so far off on the tangent. Maybe this is a movie you can do in the future, but the Mortal Kombat movie that came out a few years ago, I think during the pandemic, why would you create a totally new character and say, hey, you're the center of this film when you have a plethora of characters?
But you want to know what's the other weird thing?
Yeah.
Why is he not in the video games?
Like, why haven't they introduced him?
Yes. You can easily just rectify that situation by doing the reverse and just putting him into the video game.
You could, but I also think that he was I think he's in the sequel, but to me, man, like, he's such a useless character It's nothing on the actor and stuff like, but it just but it's like, what's the point of the character in the first place? And maybe he was created and not popular enough to justify, like, because with I guess think of another example like Harley Quinn. If you're getting back to Batman, was not in the comic books originally. She was created in the animated series, and then she became so popular that they introduced her in the comics. Mm-hmm. And so maybe that's kind of what it takes, is for that character to take off with the audiences and for them to become popular enough for the games or whatever media they came from to then feel justified in doing that. But I can't see anyone who was like, man, Cole is a great character. I can't wait till he's introduced in Mortal Kombat. Said no one, because
I mean, the craziest thing is, like, if I were Warner Brothers, who's like, I own both, I can make this movie and I basically publish the game, I would just immediately create synergy. I'd be like, hey, NRS, we are making this character. You mind putting him in this game that also is about to come out?
Yeah.
Instead, they just, like, left it hanging, and you're sitting here like, what they make this doofus for?
It was very doofalicious.
And it's like,
take whichever one you want.
It's not like they were not known to make a character for a movie. I mean, my homeboy Art from the first movie, who you just he should have been somebody, and they should still put him into the video games, but they haven't. But I understand, but he also wasn't the main character, and that's the issue with like, and you already have a main character. His name's Liu Kang.
Yeah, exactly, and he's in the movie. That's he's already in this movie. Why would you then create another layer on top of it? But sorry, not to detract so far from the good old Batman. As we wrap up, did you have any closing thoughts on the movie, or anything that you didn't get to, which were very salient points?
No, we basically kind of went over it. I just really enjoyed. I enjoyed my rewatch, and I enjoyed this movie. And if I were to say, does it still hold up? I do think it still holds up. It is, I would say, the second best Batman movie that there has been. And it's not like it's it's not like the gap is big between the two. It still holds up because at the end of the day, I feel it is a movie that just has superheroes in it. And that, I think, goes across the entire 3 Nolan movies. And as such, I think it allows them to be able to continue to live on in a way that we may not see other superhero movies do. Because I think when you make a good movie, it can stand the test of time and not be a product of its time. It can still be a product of its time while standing the test of time, is what I mean to say. A lot of movies end up just being products of their time, and you're like, I cannot remove the two.
Yeah.
But also, I'm not saying this is timeless so much as I'm just saying that it can just always be of its time and be a good movie.
Yeah.
But it definitely has its problems. All movies do. It just has fewer of them than Batman Begins and The Dark Knight Rises, and also feels closer to comic bookness than the other two do, while still being just a movie. It is basically just kind of it's a thriller in a sense.
Yeah.
And it does a good job of being a thriller, all the way up to that point where the two fairies are sitting there wondering if the other side is going to blow them up, and then you get Big Debo come over here and he's like, do what you couldn't do because you ain't a man, just tossing the thing overboard, and everybody having to be like, I guess we're going to die then, only for them to both realize that they didn't blow each other up, but also Joker hasn't done so because he thought one of them were going to do it. And it's just like, oh man, you just showed the goodness out of this city. But then I kind of almost think that's where it should have ended. Just to do that real quick.
Yeah.
It probably should have ended there, because the Harvey additional parts, I don't think helped the movie. I think maybe that's why I don't think he should have died. I think it would have been great for him to get that part, and he just kind of went off into the dust, and they're like, we didn't find Harvey, and then he shows back up at the beginning of the third movie. I think that would have worked great. But I like the movie. I liked it a lot, and I would definitely recommend it if you haven't seen it. It'd be kind of crazy if you haven't seen it, but there are things that I haven't seen from 2008 either.
No, for sure.
So I would recommend seeing it, and I honestly don't think you need to watch the first movie to watch this one.
Should we have like a little spoiler disclaimer at the beginning of these, for like in the just in case situation that there is somebody out there that has not yet seen, and just be like, hey, this might contain spoilers for.
Oh, there's no might. I mean, if you haven't seen it, it will contain spoilers. And if you have seen it,
and if you, I mean, chances are if they haven't seen it, they probably have.
Like, why would you be listening to us? Why would you be like, man, I really want to hear a podcast about this movie I haven't seen?
Yeah. But you can still listen, though. I'm not saying that you can't.
Yeah, no. Please listen to us.
just throwing that out there.
But, yep. What were your thoughts?
I do feel like there were a lot of the not so great points that we focused on. But even with that said, I don't want to get it twisted that this is, at the end of the day, an incredible movie. Beginning to end. I think there are some pieces, I would say some elements that I was critical of from the first movie that still carried over into this movie, mainly being the action, especially hand-to-hand grounded combat. Really the only difference, and I think you put it perfectly, is how it just went from being very close up to so distant that you could see just how slow and methodical it was. It just felt like that's not how people fight. That's not how people fight. But that is compensated and made up for sort of the more grand action sequences. The chase scene, I think, is also like a very great part of the movie, and it is a great part of being a thriller. Like you said, like a thriller movie with superheroes in it, and it did that fantastically. And I would totally agree with you that it does feel, of all the movies, the most like it could have possibly came off the page of a comic book. I would say the second being Batman Begins, especially because it goes into the origin story, and I feel like that's almost kind of impossible to separate that from the two. So yeah, at the end of the day, it's one of those movies. And again, not to just sound like I'm a parrot here, but I would definitely agree with you on it being the second best Batman movie. My margin, I don't know. I think I need to maybe rewatch the Batman to kind of determine, what that margin is. But it definitely is up there. And I shouldn't say second to the Batman, but second to Batman versus Superman.
Obviously, that was the number one. That was the real number one I was talking about from the beginning. Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice.
Yes, the best Batman movie.
Why did you say that name?
I'm sorry. But thank you for listening. That'd be my thoughts, man.
And again, this has been Damon, Farron, and Andrew with Panharmonicon Presents a podcast. Thank you for listening.
See you in the next one.
Panharmonicon presents a podcast.